and we are live and actually on time. You
Ain't
know,
that something?
yeah. So, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Big Guilty Cigar Podcast. If you know me, you know the guy over to my left or my right, one of the two. My boy Rob from Should I Smoke This? A very good friend of mine, and you know, Rob is probably bigger. Rob is 10 times bigger than me on YouTube. So,
Not on
we've been
YouTube
talking about this
anymore.
for Rumble, but Rob
Wait till
has,
we get to that topic.
yeah. So, like, me and Rob been talking about this for like 8 months. This podcast was supposed to happen 8 months ago.
That's true.
It's finally happened, and I really want people to get to know the Rob that I know, and just your background and a little more behind, who is Rob from Should I Smoke This? Even though they probably have a good idea, we're gonna try to do a little deeper dive.
Yeah, everybody's got an
into it.
idea.
Yeah,
Generally. It's kind of like,
yeah,
oh, he's that asshole that knows about cigars.
yeah. But here's the thing. But the one thing about us is that we don't talk cigars.
No, almost never.
Never. We never talk cigars.
Although I think part of that might be because like we're surrounded by cigars all day, and like
all the time.
it's practically it is most of what I. Well, not what am I saying? Most of it's basically all of my job at this point. So it's kind of like we have other things that we're interested in, so we'd rather
exactly besides cigars. So and that's the one thing too is that yeah, people know the cigar side of you, but I know
way
Rob
more
person. Yeah, right. Exactly. So let's give a couple shout outs to Danny Nip.
Hell
on.
Yeah.
Danny's on. What's going on, Danny? Steve is on.
Oh, what's up, Steve? I gotta plug this exhaust fan in, or I'm gonna die during the podcast.
Nah, no problem. Do your thing. Do your thing. Right. So, all right, you guys know the routine already. Tell us what you're smoking if you're smoking anything. I'm smoking one of the Lost and Founds. A lot of them are unbanded, so it's kind of hard to tell which one is which.
Well, that doesn't help anybody.
But I am smoking one of the Lost and Found cigars.
One of the Lost and Founds. Question mark.
One of the Lost and Founds.
I'm smoking SP Black 554. One of the old ones, the before the pigtail and closed foot.
Yeah. Oh.
You're gonna have to lead me here, by the way, because I'm used to like doing these
interviews.
So I keep wanting to like spit things out or ask questions, and I'm like,
so this is where we're started off at. So let's go back to you as a person. So where'd you grow up, Rob? Everybody know Jersey, but your upbringing.
Well, I grew up in West Orange, New Jersey, but I always have to make this distinction, right? So when I say West Orange, anybody who knows this area, New Jersey, they go, ooh, well, excuse me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, No. See, there's like West Orange, which is bright and shiny and affluent. Then there's this little area down by Orange, that section of West Orange, and I'm like, that's where I grew up. And then people go, oh. So yeah, that was it. West Orange, New Jersey, down on the border of Orange there.
All right. So growing up, like at what age did you start playing? Like a lot of people know that you were a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So what age did you start playing guitar?
Well, guitar I started a little bit later. I'd say I started messing around with guitar at let's see.
Sorry. Drums. I'm sorry.
So I was gonna say guitar is an interesting place to start because I taught myself guitar quite a while later.
Yeah.
Drums I started playing. I don't even know what the age would be because my father was a professional drummer for a long time, and he still to this day is a drum teacher. That's what he does for a living. He owns his own business. And he taught me from the time I could stand. There's like literally pictures of me, like me holding the sticks where like somebody's holding me up and like, I'm hitting the pads and whatever. And
Yeah.
he started me young to the point that by the time I could literally play a whole kit and hold my own in a group setting, I was playing in church 3 times a week from the time I was 6 years old. Which there's
Wow.
video proof of that. Not any that I have to upload here now, but I was playing literally in front of people three times a week when I was 6 7 years old. So that's when that's how early it was that I was actually playing. Yeah.
So do you feel like you were born with the pocket, or it was just like,
No,
or is
I'm
that
gonna
something
say
that's merely developed?
no. See, so that's an interesting place to start. There is because I think me and you might have discussed this before, but for the crowd,
Hmm.
as it were, me and my father have discussed this at length. And again, he not only is a professional drummer, but he's been a drum teacher for what 30 something years now. Pocket, groove, and timing are not something you can learn. And a lot of drummers or musicians will try to argue that you can get better at it with practice, but that's a God-given ability. That's why there's some drummers who have never taken a lesson, don't know jack, can't read a note, really have no foundational understanding and have the deepest groove or the deepest pocket you've ever heard, or can nail a click track if they go in a studio. Then you have other people that have been playing forever. They have all the best gear. Their parents had them taking lessons from the time they were 7, and they can barely keep tempo. You know what I mean? So timing, groove, pocket, those are things that are all feel. That's all feel. And feel you're
Mm.
born with. No matter what instrument it is you're playing, you're born with feel. You really cannot learn it.
So one person that we discuss a lot is Questlove from the Roots,
Where?
and you go he's always off, but his pocket is like it's a different type of playing style.
Well, correctly off. So
Yeah.
this is hard to explain, but anybody who's a drummer might be watching. You'll get what I'm saying. He's always a tiny bit behind the one. What that does though is that adds that kind of feel. It almost has that like millisecond of drag to it, and that's what makes you go, he's not off as in like he's off time. See, one of the things I've always said about Questlove is I really admire him as a drummer, not because he does anything chop wise that I haven't been able to do since I was young. I admire him as a drummer because he is he's basically the epitome of pocket. Everything he does is exactly what lays that whole band in the groove. Like he's just a solid pocket drummer, you know.
Mm.
Which there's a big difference there between like with drummers specifically, drummers that do their job. Which I think a lot of people forget this now because we're in the YouTube age and everybody just wants
Hmm.
to see people go ape shit on solos. The job of the drummer is to keep time and to keep the group together if you're playing in a group setting. That's what you're supposed to be doing. It's not about how nasty your chops are. If you have chops too, good. But first and foremost, can you literally play in time? That's what a drummer's supposed to do. So, to me, when I see a drummer that can do all this crazy shit, but then you see him in a group setting and he literally can't stay on the one, or he can't hold time, or I used to do a lot of studio stuff and I would hear, you know, over and over and over from certain engineers. Most of these drummers that are coming in here literally can't play to the click track. They can't stay on tempo. And it's
Mm.
like, to me, that's completely unacceptable. That's literally the drummer's job. If you can't do that, you should not be moving on to chops and tricks and stick shit and flipping things. There's no point to that. That's not your job.
So one guy that we watch a lot is that one guy he has to be from either Spain or Brazil, the one that does all the tricks with the sticks. He's disgusting.
Yeah,
He calls
everybody
himself
watching this knows who we're talking about. I can't remember his name either, but he's like the biggest thing on Instagram and TikTok and
isn't it,
everything.
isn't it like it's like Sebastian something, right?
Something is a fairly long name, but
Yeah,
yeah, he kind of got popular when he started doing all the
covers.
playing the songs with one hand.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's not. I mean,
like
he doesn't have one hand. But he was playing all the shit with one stick while he
yeah.
just smokes with the other hand or whatever, or like
So
drinks some coffee.
so my question to you is like, do you think that he would, because if he's that good online, you know, like you would figure that somebody would try to hire him for going on tour or or jump for somebody, and uh, because that's really where you know if a person has skill or not. Because yeah, it looks cute when you're on Instagram because you can sit there and do it 50 million times.
Right, you could do 3,000 takes. Right.
Exactly.
And the thing is, like, a lot of people argue, like, hey, well, yeah, but it's a live take. Like, you heard what he actually played. It's like, okay, yeah, but, and I'm not saying for this gentleman specifically, but I mean, for a lot of people that do videos of things, okay, yeah, but they literally ask any of them. They'll tell you that they had to do many, many, many takes. So how many times
Yeah.
did they screw up and what did they screw up? You know what I mean? Yeah, doing a video for online that you can just do repeatedly, or even like, well, it's the same thing all the way back in recorded music to playing in the studio.
Hmm.
I mean, it was a lot harder back in the day before all the digital stuff where you just hit a delete button, but you could do multiple takes. So live is really where you get to see, what somebody's made of on any instrument.
And because like he could, and one thing, and I feel like he's trying to sell courses
Hmm.
at the same time, because I feel like he's one of those guys that's just selling online business. Like, oh, I'm cool. Look at me.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, I
kind of.
can't knock his hustle.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's his game, that's his game. And the thing is, I think we've talked about him a little bit too. Uh, he is. I'm not going to ever sit here and
Here we go.
you found his name. You found him on there.
There we go. Can
Yeah.
you see the comment?
Oh yeah, yeah. New York Beard's got it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So yeah, we've talked about him before. I'll never say he's not a good drummer. He's a
Yeah.
solid player for sure. And look, it's not like chops make up for nothing, and he's all chops. He's got an arsenal, and he does a lot of interesting thing like 3 and 4 way independence, his syncopation solid. I won't bore you with all of that shit, but he's definitely a good player. Uh, you know, I think where a lot of people get me wrong with him, we're talking about in the local shop group because
Yeah.
Angel, a lot of people who try to show me his videos, and I'm like,
Hmm.
like get this guy to fuck away from me. And it's literally just because he's become so popular that he's the only fucking drum guy people show me anymore, and I'm tired of it.
Exactly.
It's like, all right, yeah, he's good. We all know that. Like, can we get on to like anybody else who plays at all? You know?
You know, and it's crazy because like I'll in all day on Instagram like now my Instagram feed is like it's the usual BS, and now it's just full of artists doing like playing guitar solos and drummers, and I'm always DMing you
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of
like
it. And because everybody kind of figured out the formula, which is, and it's interesting how music constantly evolves. It went from, like, back in the have to get a record deal days to the SoundCloud stuff and being able to kind of just put things online. And at this point, people are starting to figure out that kind of like you don't even need a group or to sell an album. Like, if you're
hmm
good enough at an instrument, and this is why you're seeing more and more solo musicians, if you're good enough at an instrument and you enjoy it and you can present yourself in a certain way that makes you stand out to some degree, you can basically just, whether it be through ad revenue or affiliate deals or whatever, play by yourself.
hmm
And if you get popular enough on social media, like, fuck a whole band, like, or a deal, or I'll just play, make videos, and that's becoming like kind of the new version of music, which is interesting. Not like it's taken over music, but in terms of the social media stuff, that's why you're seeing that all the time. It's like people have figured out that you basically don't need anybody else or anything else other than a little bit of know-how digitally to, if you have some skill, you can just get it out there. And if you pick up some
hmm
traction, there you go. It's not like back in the day where, like, you had to get people to shows and you had to hope this person or that person saw you, or you know you had to try to get the most views on sound, clicks on SoundCloud or plays. Like, not anymore. You can do it by
so
yourself.
so as a drummer, so who inspired you? Like you're like, man, like I wish I could play like him, or man, like
My inspirations came from a lot of drummers, because, and how I know this actually isn't from my opinion, I used to get from a lot of friends, fellow musicians, etc. Back when I used to play a ton. Because for those of you who don't know, I was in bands from the time I was 13 all the way up through my mid 20s when I was like doing tour stuff with two bands, and it was a lot of fun. But I always would get people that say, "Oh man, I hear a lot of this influence or that influence." It was never the same person though, so they could tell that like, and that's what kind of shapes a solid musician, in my opinion. Like even in terms of other instruments, is somebody who takes from a lot of their influences and tries to make their own style. That's what you're supposed to do with it. Anybody who sounds exactly like another player, that's a problem. That's
Yeah.
just you trying to emulate somebody else. In terms of though who like directly were the biggest influences for me, Pops obviously, because that was the first drummer I ever saw playing, and that's who taught me everything. So I picked up a lot of
Mm-hmm.
his kind of cues and style and techniques. But in terms of popular music, who actually the biggest influence was for me? It wouldn't be anybody you'd think. Not a metal drummer, not a popular like session musician. It was Carter Buford from Dave Matthews Band. I grew up
Wow.
from the mid '90s listening to Dave Matthews Band,
Yeah.
who I actually don't even really listen to much anymore. But Carter Buford is in my opinion, overall, one of the greatest drummers that ever lived. One of my father's favorite drummers too, and one of most drummers' favorite drummers. Because anybody who knows that he's one of the nastiest players on the planet. So he was probably, in terms of popular music, uh, my biggest influence. And then the fun and so I got a lot of technique and a lot of interesting things from him that I used in a bunch of other styles of music that are nothing like Dave Matthews Band. Which is
Mm.
why, like I said, it's good to pull from a lot of different influences and take the things and techniques and different things that you learn from some of these other great players and mold them into your own style. So the good thing there is like I didn't have anybody consistently telling me, "Oh, you sound like this guy."
Yeah.
So I knew that I made my own, you know, style as time went on. I played like Rob, but you could always
Yeah.
pick out a little. Oh, you got a little of this from that guy. You picked a little of this from that guy. Oh, you listened to a lot of this. I see what you did here in this song. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So like, and when we're in the shop, we talk about like you always put me on to different bands. So like, and especially like different drummers as far as the guy from Tool, the guy from
Danny Carey, yeah,
Danny Carey. You put me on to Chad Smith.
yeah. Another example of what I was talking about before about being a great pocket drummer. He's not pocket like the Roots drummer, but he's pocket in terms of like as far as rock drummers go, he hits hard and like he looks like he's doing a lot because he flails a lot and he's a big
Yeah,
awkward dude. But he's honestly just playing his part and he does it so well. He's the perfect drummer for that group.
you know. So like in the 2000s, I heard that like really good drummers were the um the drummer from Coheed and Cambria, the drummer from Yellow Card, and who else they said was really fucking like he shouldn't have been with the band.
The drummer from Coheed, whose name I can't remember, he was excellent. I couldn't stand Yellow Card so much that, honest to God, I never was able to really dive in and see what the
Yeah,
drummer was doing. They,
like
they,
it
were,
like
they were too emo and just another word that I won't use on your podcast.
yeah.
And I didn't like the. Now this is going to sound hypocritical because I was about to say I couldn't stand the fact that they had a violin in the band. Yet I just told you that one of the bands I grew up really listening to
Mhm.
all the time was Dave Matthews Band. Seemed to fit though with Boyd Tinsley and Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah.
This weird emo thing with the violin, I just didn't get it. I was like,
Mhm.
what's going? Anyway, I don't know his name. Is my point.
Yeah. Quick shout out to Angel real quick because Angel's here.
Angel's on.
Angel's
Hey,
on.
happy early birthday! It's his birthday in like
Happy early
3 hours.
birthday, kid.
Yeah.
He said the industry killers are in the build. Oh, so can you see the comments when I drop them down there?
I only see them when they first pop up, then they disappear.
Okay.
Oh wait, why don't I just? I didn't click on comments. Nah, I use StreamYard every
Hmm.
3 times a week, and I did this shit wrong. Sorry. What's going on, everybody?
Yeah. So you know, um, going from there to one thing you and you just bought a new guitar.
Yeah, because I'm starting to get back into playing now.
Like the thing is you're doing so much work at the shop that it's kind of like you know what? Honestly,
I'm gonna need to bring the guitar to the shop and like
I
play
was
play
I
in
was gonna say
between
that
guitars.
exactly. Like one day you just gotta sit down there, like while you're packing orders,
Yeah.
and just pick up your guitar for 20 minutes and just smoke a cigar and just play something.
I might literally just bring the guitar over here at some point because I never find time lately at home to. That guitar, I bought a guitar. I've wanted for a while, and I've played it like 4 times in the last 2 months. It's like, come
Wow.
on, man, because I'm just so busy. I got work
No,
to do.
it's
As soon as we're off of here, I got more work to do. You know what I mean? It's like,
it,
and you see, because you're at the shop all the time,
exactly.
nonstop,
I see it.
nonstop.
It's very interesting because when it comes to guitarists, I think we have like two different views on it. Just because I'm not like so I love Gary Clark Jr. And I'll be like, yo, he's badass, he's sick. But you go, nah, he's good, but this guy's better. And I'm like, and then I hear him, I
Yeah.
go, God damn it, Rob got me again.
Hmm.
I go, oh, this guy's good. You know?
You see, it's a lot different when you grow up with music, and especially if you are a musician,
Yeah,
is like you. Oh, I just saw Angel's comment that he's not lying at all. Oh
at
my
all.
god!
At all.
No, I think
Every
I got
time
past.
Rob picks up the book, somebody comes in and starts talking to him.
So I brought a book that somebody bought me for Christmas a while back because watches is another thing that I'm into. Some of you know I have a watch channel too, which I haven't been updating at all.
Mm.
But I brought this really nice book to the shop, and I figured like I set aside a half hour or so before live streams, and I'll read the book a little, calm myself from all the frazzled work I just did, and then have a nice time on the live. Hasn't worked once yet because nobody leaves me alone. Anyway, what was it? Oh, all I was saying was when you are a musician, when you understand, it's one thing to like be a spectator and shit sounds cool. But if you actually know what's
Mm-hmm.
being played, you wind up being a lot more kind of you discern what's actually going on. You understand the technique being used, so it's harder for you to appreciate certain things because you're picking at every little thing. Because you know if something just looks and sounds impressive or actually is hard. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot. It's kind of it's a blessing in one way because it's like all right, you have an understanding of what these people are playing, and it's a curse in another way because it's much harder for you to enjoy most music, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because me, I can't just like turn that part of my brain off and just enjoy the music. For me, it's always, kind of scrutinizing what's being played as to whether or not it's good. And then that kind of narrows the pool of things that I listen to down because there's certain things that I'm just like, this person in the group's not good, or this production wasn't solid, or the mix sucks here. You know what I mean? It's like, I wish you want to turn that off sometimes and just enjoy music. But
It's very interesting when we talk about just like because I feel like the 80s came out had great rock. You go, no, the 80s had shit rock.
the 80s had like, and people are going to jump in, I'm sure, and name a few bands that I forgot. You had the Police, you had Journey, Van
Mm-hmm.
Halen, and some of these bands didn't necessarily start in the 80s, but in terms of stuff that was popular in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just going to go with that's it. Like the rock in the 80s. Listen, first of all, rock in the 80s, you had that soft rock shit. That's when they really started the beginnings of electronic stuff. So you had a lot of rock
Yeah.
musicians that were starting to play with like the beginnings of electric drums and shit, which sounded terrible. And then you had hair metal, which I don't.
Mm-hmm.
This is your podcast, so you could entertain people yelling at me if you want for this, but hair metal was not a good thing. Okay,
Yeah.
all those glam rock, long haired leather ass, just stupid, big sounding. I don't know what was going on. None of that. Listen, in terms of musicianship, that shit was all very funny. There were very
So
few good bands from the '80s, in my opinion. You know, like for me, because I got to listen to everything growing up. It's like, well, mostly '60s and on. '60s, '70s, please skip the '80s, and then like the '90s continued music. That's how it was for me.
so like because Metallica started in the 80s. So like Metallica, like a Slayer.
Yeah, a lot of bands started in the 80s. But see, even like Red Hot Chili Peppers started in the 80s. Does
Yeah.
anybody know them as an 80s band?
No.
So like when I think of 80s groups, I think of groups that were popular in the 80s. You know what I mean?
So you think
That
it
like
more
kind
like
of personified the 80s sound. And like a band like Metallica certainly does not personify the 80s. You know what I mean?
yeah.
In fact, they're more of a kind of. We've talked about this. I'm not a huge Metallica fan for a handful of reasons. Great band though. Don't anybody lose your mind. Um, Mostly the drummer is the reasons. We've talked about Lars is fucking trash, but
yeah.
they have more of their own kind of timeless classic metal Metallica sound, which is that is a very tough and very great thing to have if you could pull it off. When a band has their own sound, they don't sound like the sound of the time. They have their own sound. That's what differentiates like a band that to this day is selling out arenas versus
Mm-hmm.
bands that were just cool for a period. You know what I mean? So
So so would you consider a band like Slayer cool for the time?
mm,
Or would
Slayer
you
is
consider them
still
timeless?
not well. See, I would put them somewhere in between because Slayer has forever fans, and Slayer definitely sounds like Slayer. At the same time, I don't know. I wouldn't say that their sound is timeless. Some of their stuff to me, especially earlier stuff, does sound dated. But they're another band that like I'll just put it in the terms of I got no beef with them. Like I don't have any reasons to hate Slayer. They're also not a favorite band either.
Yeah.
They're they hold their significance in their genre, you know,
Yeah.
for sure.
Like, like for me myself, like I'm a big Motorhead fan.
Mm.
Love Motorhead. Like if I'm in the gym, Motorhead has to come on. It's like a few like Motorhead, Mastodon, you know,
See, I got into a lot
um
in terms of the heavy stuff. I honestly kind of skipped even past most of the 90s and really started getting into metal more with the modern metal type stuff. Um, Everything from like Swedish death metal, like Opeth. Yeah, I don't know if you've even ever heard of
yeah.
them, but they're wild. To like a lot of the gent stuff. Like
Mm,
I listen. I like when Periphery first came out. It kind of like opened an entire new world of music for me. Um, and I
yeah.
still listen to them to this day. Stuff that's a lot more technical, or even like I mean,
Yeah.
and they're considered. See, there's so many. We've talked about this. There's too many like genre names and subgenres and shit like that because I don't love prog rock necessarily a lot of
Yeah.
it, but Dream Theater is one of the greatest technical bands that there ever was. And I used to listen to a ton of
Yeah.
Dream Theater too. Um, they've been around for quite some time. But yeah, I didn't really start getting into heavier stuff, believe it or not, until like later. In the 90s, predominantly, I was listening to a lot of like standard rock stuff plus whatever stuff, I was playing at the time. But 90s were mostly hip hop and
Mm-hmm.
R&B. That was more of the uh, influence then. I really started getting heavier into
Like,
the metal stuff in the 2000s.
just a couple of things. I know for a fact that Steve and Danny both were rocking long hair back in the 80s. So I don't know. So Steve could say, "Oh, he wasn't rocking with it." I know for a fact that if we went to the yearbooks, we would see Steve and Danny with long hair.
Oh shit, we want to see them pictures.
Yeah, I've like, of course, growing up, I've always grew up on R&B, old school Motown, you know, and as the old, and also just talking to you more about music, the more I start to appreciate just that sound, just because of the fact of the way the musicians had to be.
Yeah.
Like when you hear a band like Barry White's band, especially like James Brown's band, and then Earth,
James
Wind and
Brown's
Fire
band.
was
Yeah.
bad.
Or I was
You
talking to
know,
my dad about September the other day, just the song September, let alone the
yeah,
entire band. And people don't understand a lot of the magic in the layering in that song. People don't
yeah,
understand what's going on there. That's not just a happy little bubbly tune. Like
yeah,
the, even the vocal melody alone, you can't actually play on a piano. Something
mm-hmm,
we'll talk about in more detail when we're not on a podcast and we don't waste 45 minutes. Because
Yeah.
I always forget the singer's name. God forgive me. But even what he sang in that song is, oh, there is so much great. I call it under the radar music. Then not under the radar in terms of popularity, but like where the bands and the groups and the music was just good and people just vibed to it and they weren't really paying attention to how mind blowing the shit was that was going on behind the vocals. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know,
You know
but
what? You know what's
I like that compared to the opposite, where now it's just about overplaying the shit out of everything, and meanwhile, like nothing's being said in terms of musical
at
language.
all.
You know what I mean?
You know. You know what's something crazy is when it's back then it was about the openings of the song. So like one of my favorite openings all time is is uh is Frankie Beverly Before I Let You Go.
Mm,
And it's that drop. Boom, 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 boom. And then he comes in, you know,
mm.
and then the bit and then everything drops off and then the guitar comes in,
All
you
right.
know, like
Everything had
what
a lot more thought to it then, and I've been saying this, like I've been trying to like even wrap my own head around this when I talk about music with other musicians and stuff. It's like, okay, nowadays, I guess because of the internet and whatnot, there are definitely kids out there, and when I say kids, I mean like kids, you know, still in middle school,
yeah.
high school, whatever, that will shit on me as a drummer, guitar player, bass player, like no joke, right? So there are monster players out there in terms of like the stuff that people can play now because there's such a you have such a uh, an availability of information, which is awesome. The thing is, writers, that's something that we don't have compared to back in the day. Whether you're talking about hip hop producers, whether you're talking about just people who, you know, can put together a melody, people who can write
Mm-hmm.
a song as a complete thought. Everybody can play their ass off now. You have all these literal kids that can shred their ass off, that can play all
Mm-hmm.
this complicated shit. Ask any of them to write a song, and the few
Yeah.
that do, it turns into some instrumental fucking wank fest where it's just still about showing what kind of stuff I can play instead of a song you feel. You don't really feel much of anything these days. You know what I mean? And so to me, it's like the trade off was okay, there's a lot more technical talent now, but the trade off is the feel went down as the technical ability has gone up. You know, because
Like
it's not about a feeling anymore, and it's not about writing a song anymore. It's about how much can I play to make somebody else go, wow, he's amazing.
it's interesting because I always think of when I think of like guitar setting the tone. I always think of the Isley Brothers,
Mm,
and you know, no matter what, he would come like the brother would come and rest in peace. He has passed away.
mm.
You know, he will always come in playing something, and you're like, damn, you
Yeah.
know, he would come and I'm pretty sure it's pretty basic stuff, you
Yeah, no,
know.
he was a solid player. There was a lot of great players from back then, you know, and there was a
Yeah,
lot less effects and a lot less, even in terms of the recording, there was a lot less, you know, take 555s because back then
yeah.
you were recording to tape, and that was a whole nother process, you know. Anyway, I won't get into all that technical shit, but uh, the players had to be players. You know what I mean? There was a
so
lot less
yeah.
forgiveness in the music.
So did you ever hear of In the Clash?
The Clash, yeah.
Yeah.
I see. I didn't like. Oh, a bunch of people are going to cringe when I say this. I never liked punk rock at all. I understand its significance in the musical picture too, so I have no beef with punk rock, but never liked it because it's the ultimate simplicity. Now I understand that punk rock. We're not going into histories here, but punk rock was more about the anti-establishment back then, which is hilarious because now the punk rock bands that are left are completely the establishment. But it was about anti-establishment. It was about the attitude. It was about the rawness. It wasn't about musical ability. But I
Yeah.
mean, Jesus, like punk rock is all just like, you know, few power chords, just smashing it out, you know, and lyrically, some things would be interesting, but that shit honestly drove me nuts. But again, it's too simple for somebody who's overthinking everything to ever really appreciate. So I never really got into punk. But the Clash was
It's
a
interesting
classic
because
punk band.
I can't lie, Rob. You kind of killed Tool for me.
What do you mean I killed them?
Only because a lot of this stuff sounds very similar.
Oh yeah. Well, here's why. Without going into a long drawn out thing, you're not a musician.
Yeah.
So Tool, like I told you, a lot of it can wind up just being like, what the fuck, and just monotonous, and it just keeps going, and you're like, okay, what? It's all the little nuances and intricacies musically that people wind up nerding out over. And I had even admitted to you the other day at the shop that even to
Yeah.
myself, I can't digest. I love Danny Carey and I love Tool in general as a band. I can't really digest a full Tool album. I never even bothered to go see them live for that reason, because it was like, I don't need a song that goes on forever just to nerd out on the little intricacies, you know, or a lot of people also like to like drop acid or do mushrooms and listen to Tool because their music sonically will definitely interact with you to a degree. It's quite interesting. I don't do any of that shit though. But I can understand. I've known forever and said forever. If you're not like a musician, like if you're not going to nerd out on the
Yeah.
music, the musicality of it, Tool's really not for everybody. You know, very unique band, but they're not for everybody.
And it's crazy because when you think of a drummer like Chad Smith and just how he never heard the song before,
Mm-hmm.
took down a few notes and was like, okay, I can come in here and just blah, 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 and played it better than the actual drummer.
Yep, that's when you know somebody's a player. Although, like I told you, that also comes from, in his case, decades of experience of writing. And see, this is where I said, the difference between all these impressive kids and somebody like Chad Smith. So you have people like the guy we mentioned earlier, who, like I said, incredible chops wise. I'd say better than me. The difference is I've been writing music forever, so I'd be hard pressed to say that probably if the two of us had to sit down and do the same thing Chad Smith did in that video,
Yeah,
that I wouldn't be as good or better at it because I'm used to writing parts
yeah,
to songs that haven't been written for a long time, and that's a whole different skill. Chad Smith has been writing parts for decades of Chili Peppers records, among
yeah,
other things, since he's in his 20s. So
yeah.
when you have that, that's a different ability than being able to play. Being able to write is a very different ability and a very useful ability that's starting to die off. That's, like I said, the trade-off that people aren't starting to really see in modern music, in all genres of modern music. The writers are starting to die down, and the musical technicality and flash and kind of distraction of over technicality is kind of taking over. You know.
Well, I think the one thing that surprised me when labels started writing hits for their artists and
Oh,
artists
that's been
wasn't writing
going
their
on
own.
forever, dude. That's
You
been.
know,
I mean, it became like real big in the '90s, 2000s, stuff like that. But that's been going on since. I can't speak for the '40s, '50s, stuff like that. But that's been shit's been going on since the '60s, where people ghost wrote for other people and who wrote whose song, and labels literally got writers together to write at least lyrics, if not the song in general. That's an old thing. Yeah.
because when I think about stuff like that, I think about like with Motown, that happened all the time. Motown said, all right, Smokey Robinson, because Motown had three writers. It was Smokey and two other guys who pretty much wrote everything for all the artists.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, I didn't think that happened in rock music. I thought rock
Oh
music,
no, it happens in rock music for sure. Oh yeah, especially the closer you get to pop. So like, let's say there's a scale, and pop
mhm,
and pop rock is over here, and like let's say the most extreme forms of metal are over here, right? Because they're all related.
mm,
So the closer, so the extreme metal's over here. They're
yeah,
mostly writing their own shit. The closer you get to pop,
yeah,
all the genres in between, the more the songs are being written if they're signed to a major label.
Mm.
Because you have to keep in mind there's a certain formula for every genre in terms of what's selling the most at any given time, and
Yeah.
that formula is the sound, and they have to keep their artists on track with the current sound as much as possible. When an artist goes full independent, that's when you really get to see what that artist or group can do and what their style actually is. When anytime you have an artist of any kind, I don't care what they say in an interview, any artist or band, group, etc., that's on a major label, you don't actually know what their creativity fully sounds like because they're going to be heavily influenced by the label. They have to fit a certain mold. That's part of the game.
You know what the thing is? So like, you know, when I hear that motherfucking John Mayer, you know, and everybody knows,
Mm.
and this is my show, so I can motherfucking curse. Uh, you know, like when you look at John Mayer, like, damn, John Mayer he gets bitches because you know you hear that song, your body's a wonderland,
Mm.
but you don't know that he's one of the coldest fucking, you know, he's one of the coldest guitar players out there.
Listen, let me tune in on this, right? So first of all, the guitar that Innocent was referring to earlier, I finally figured, okay, so it's not like I don't have any guitars left. In fact, one of my the guitar that I was playing up until recently was, my singer from my last band, rest in peace, Matt. When he passed away, he left his vintage Telly here, and that Fender Telecaster I love to death. I just don't want to be beaten on it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I have some other guitars here, but I said, you know what? Let me get back into it. And what guitar, like has been, who in my opinion is it for guitar in terms of versatility, in terms of style, in terms of everything? John Mayer, period. So I bought a Paul Reed Smith Silver Sky, which I don't need, but I was like, you know what? I'm doing it just to pay a little bit of homage because what you were just hinting at, I've known this since back in the early 2000s. John Mayer, and you don't have to take my word for it. Go read any guitar magazine, read any blogs, anything. People might hate him, they might hate his music, but even guitar players agree he's one of the greatest guitar players alive, period. And not just for pop, because like you said, a lot of people know his poppy shit. His
Yep.
poppy stuff isn't him. You could go online on YouTube and just see hours and hours and hours of him popping up at random jam sessions for blues, jazz, playing at people's parties, doing standards, just all kinds of crazy. John Mayer can do every the when I saw him live, right? He played a bunch of his stuff, Girls Go Crazy.
Yeah.
He played blues with the trio for over an hour. Just
Wow.
just all emotion. The whole thing was and still everybody went completely bananas. Everything that I've ever and he's another one of those players that even if you take his pop stuff, anybody who
Mhm.
plays guitar, you're going to know what I'm talking about. Even his pop stuff, it's none of it's easy. He's one of the most gifted writers on the planet, not just in terms of being able to string together a melody or something, right? If you were to type in John Mayer Neon, that's one of his old songs on YouTube. The
Mhm.
majority of videos aren't him playing the song. The majority of videos are 2 fucking decades of people trying to break down and explain why nobody can play that song properly. And that's one of his pop
Wow.
singles. So when you think about it, it's like he doesn't put together, three power chords and a stupid little beat and just sing something over it. The man's he was playing stuff since back in his 20s that guitar players today are like, what the fuck? I can't even play this. And singing like pop songs over it. Like the guy's unbelievable. Anybody who for a second thinks that he's not one of the greatest musicians on the planet, you either don't understand music or you need to dive further into his body of work and what he's actually doing, because he's it. And it's weird to hear somebody say that who just said they listen to a lot of metal, they listen to a lot of. So I listen to a lot of really technical players, but the best overall guitar player on the planet, both in terms of playing ability and writing, is John Mayer. That's it. And almost every guitar player generally agrees that he's at least on the list. You know what I mean?
Wow. So here's a problem, Rob. You gave me this one on Sunday. and I have
Yeah.
no idea what it is. It's one of those from the Lost and Found pack, and it's really fucking good.
That is either. Oh, you know what? That's gonna probably be the butter oscuro.
Mm.
Does that look like it's about a 46-ish ring gauge?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
probably the butter oscuro.
The butter. Well, the butter claro is really good too.
Butter claro is very good, but that's got a little bit
Yeah.
darker wrapper to it, but it's got the
Yeah.
same length and ring gauge. So
Yeah.
I think
The
that's
scare.
the
Yeah.
only. I'm pretty sure that's the only one I have like that. By the way, you know, everybody feel free to let us know what you're smoking. Like innocent.
Smoking. Yeah. You know. You guys know. You guys know the routine
You're all
already.
smoking with us, so let us know what's going on. John, what's going on?
Oh
Your
shit.
boy John's on.
Bayonne John is on. And my boy and Val's on. See, you know what, Danny? We need a picture of you with the mullet. We need a picture of you with the
That's right.
mullet.
I need to. Yeah, he said he had the standard issue Alabama mullet. I need to see it. And if you had
We
a
got to see
Camaro,
that.
if you had a Camaro too, you were really legit. Yeah, if you had the mullet, the Camaro, and you had to drink and drive. If you did all three of them things, you were official 80s right there.
Oh, and he got he claimed Staten Island in the house. He
Oh
said,
no. I'm telling him,
they-
hey, listen, he's ballsy. You gotta have some balls to claim Staten Island on purpose. Let me tell you.
exactly.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
Hey,
like
I have an odd question for you that has nothing to do with this podcast.
go for it.
Is this recording people's comments popping up as we're doing this? You know how we can see people's comment pop up on the actual screen?
Yeah.
How come that doesn't do that when I use StreamYard? Just anyway, show me how to do that tomorrow, because
I
that
will.
would be useful for the live streams.
Yes.
The fuck, it must be a setting that I don't have clicked on mine or something. I don't know. Anyway, enough of that.
Oh man, Danny, you can't take that, Danny.
Joe Dirt.
She called you Joe Dirt. Damn.
Oh shit! Our Hawaiian bread connects on too, Andrew.
Yo, for real. Hey, I'm hoping I like we are praying that magically a shipment of Hawaiian bread.
Oh, he already told me. He told me that in time for Thanksgiving we'll have more Hawaiian bread.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man. That's gonna be awesome.
Hey Val, just know we don't want none of that shitty Chicago bread. The same way you got that shitty Chicago pizza. That's not real fucking pizza. All right.
You don't like deep dish?
Deep dish ain't real pizza.
Hey, listen, I'm not gonna totally argue it. It's not one of my favorite pizzas, but Chicago deep dish in Chicago's it's got its thing. You know, I kind of get it.
Okay, all right.
It's kind of slop in a pan though. You
see.
It tastes good, but I don't know. Pizza's a stretch. All right, it's got some kind of it's got some sauce, it's got some cheese, but I don't know. You need two hands and a fucking bib to eat it though.
So one thing I want to get to is because you had a podcast with your dad called so like,
and it got popular, man. People were he wasn't kidding the other day. He had his own fan base, Pops,
Yeah. You know what so like outside of doing shows with him, what was your favorite time of just having a cigar with him, just sitting there and just sitting there and just talking about life?
Well, I didn't really do almost any shows with him. We did a few charity things where and interestingly enough, when we did those things, I didn't play drums. So like for one of them, I played guitar, and for the other one, I played bass for both of the shows. But like me and my dad were never in any like projects together. But man, that's a hard one. That's really a hard one.
Like I remember like my first time having a cigar with my dad. It was he came down to Tampa with my son, and and I got a cigar and he got one, and he smoked maybe what all my dad ever smokes is like 1/3 of a cigar and he's done. He'll smoke 1/3 of it and he's finished.
That's how my dad usually is too, and he he went from smoking with me now and then to not smoking at all
Mm-hmm.
to now talking about I should start smoking some cigars again. But he used to do the same shit. He'd smoke a
Yeah,
third, maybe a half, and then put it down and just talk while everybody else is smoking. You know what I mean?
exactly.
But
Hey,
I
hey,
don't know.
John.
Most of my pop's memories really aren't with cigars because he didn't smoke with me very much. You know what I mean?
Oh, all
And
right.
luckily, it's also kind of hard to pinpoint because, and this is a blessing to say, but I still see him every single day. So it's
Yeah,
not kind of like, I have fond memories of like, dad back in the day. Like I still talk to him every day. I still see him in
exactly.
person every day. So it's pretty cool. You
So
know,
did you guys have jam sessions?
occasionally we did. Yeah, we even had, I don't remember who recorded it, but somewhere on VHS, talk about getting old. Uh, Somebody had recorded me and my pops having like a drum battle down
Oh
in the
wow,
basement, like back when I was in like high school, because we always have multiple kits set up down there, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, we used to even like the intro. There was two different intros for two different seasons. We called them
yeah.
of that shooting the shit that thing that me and pops did, and we wrote the intro music to it and like recorded it and recorded the like we wrote the intro music to the show for two different seasons on our he played drums, I played guitar, and that's what we actually used as the music for the YouTube show.
Nice.
It was cool. Mitch is on, man.
What's up, Mitch?
We're on, Mitch.
You know.
Yeah.
Oh. So Angel said we want the Wonder Bread. First of all, like you gotta understand something. Like as a kid, making a peanut butter jelly sandwich with Wonder Bread was like impossible because no matter what, the second you put that fucking peanut butter on that bread, it was fucking separate.
That bread was trash.
The worst. The worst. You know.
That bread was.
Here we go.
Uh,
When you fold it, listen.
no, that's not true, Val, bro. If you, I don't know if you ever had actual Chicago deep dish from Chicago. If
He's
you fold
he's,
that
he's from
shit, if you
he's
fold
from
that shit,
Chicago.
it overflows and oozes over the crust. It ain't the same.
He's from Chicago.
Oh yeah, bro. When I eat pizza there, that shit folded how? Like you can fold it a little bit, but you're not gonna do it like Jersey style when you see us like when you fold the pizza
Exactly.
over here, you can legitimately just be straight up. You know what I mean? Take a bite.
Exactly.
You can't do that with
And also
Chicago deep dish. You fucking be wearing that shit.
and you have to eat it with a fork and a knife. Who eats pizza with a fork
Well,
and
I
a
don't know
knife?
about that. I could eat the pizza with my hands, but it's a bit of a messy prospect.
And Mitch, we're expecting some halal bread in the mail. Just know that.
Oh, hold up. I just read that John said he sent it. Fuck the Wonder Bread part. He said Wonder Wheat Bread. That's
Even
that's
worse.
taking it. That's taking it too far. I'm not eating no fucking
Like,
wheat bread. Not gonna happen.
oh man, cheap peanut butter. First of all, there is nothing wrong with Jiffy peanut butter. You know, there's nothing wrong with Jif or Jiffy peanut butter.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
I mean, it's all the shit I had when we were growing up. We were broke.
exactly.
Well, early on anyway. Thank God. Tide shifted later, but so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there was a lot of peanut butter and jelly and white bread and shit.
You know what, Mitch? When you send the bread, just send it with a both of the pack.
Yeah, right. Throw a 69 pack in there. They don't
Exactly.
work for cigars, but they might work for bread.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, Val said he was talking about the New York pizza. Yeah. You could just fold it up.
You know,
Now, that's the right way to eat it.
listen.
Anytime I see somebody take a slice of pizza and leave it flat and take bites, you're a psychopath. You're supposed to fold the pizza. If you don't fold the pizza,
Exactly.
you did it wrong. Like that's it. Yeah, John
Oh
just said what I
man.
said. So John's from this area, so he understands. If you don't fold the damn pizza, you're not eating the pizza. Either that or like you probably torture kittens in the basement or something. You got
Hey,
some screws loose.
you know what the thing is, and John had access to actual good pizza on Staten Island.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's one good thing they had.
You know.
You know,
So if you guys have any questions for Rob while we have him here, and outside of cigars, anything you want to know about Rob will probably be the perfect time to ask him now. Because
yeah, because cigar related, I have all the social media stuff. Plus, we're on live 3 times
exactly
a week. You could ask
three
me
times
cigar
a week.
shit then.
So now it's time to get to know Rob outside of should I smoke this?
What do you got? 38 questions over there. What's going on here?
Hey, look, yo, listen, man. Like,
Yo,
yo,
Angel, you see what
I got
Angel said?
it's better.
I think just
Yeah,
about
for real.
everything's better than that bread.
Exactly.
Go
Yeah,
back
that
and
bread was
watch
a
the
weapon.
bread live stream. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, that
Oh
was.
shit, we got jokes.
You see what John? You
Skip
see
it.
what John
Okay.
said?
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh man, I happily deleted that video yesterday along with everything else.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Oh man, he said you check your prayer with a human meter.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you know.
Tyler,
Oh,
you're dead
Tyler's on.
wrong. Tyler, you're dead wrong on that. What are you talking about?
First of all,
All
Tyler's
pizza is
Portuguese.
supposed to
He
be folded.
he doesn't. Tyler's Portuguese. He don't know that about pizza. Okay.
I don't know. Tyler to me, it seems like definition of regular white person. He should know something about eating a pizza. I mean, geez.
Oh shit. Oh, she got some shots fired here, Rob.
Oh, I passed him and his daughter today when I was going to the shop. I was like,
Nice.
I was like, who's Obama loving Subaru? And then I was like, oh wait, that's Angel. I was joking with
Got him.
him the other day about that. Yeah, there's like a stigma to people that own Subarus, and I know like half the people I
Don't
know own Subarus.
hey, don't ask Rob. Ask Tyler when the website is gonna be up.
Yeah, Angel, Tyler's on right now.
Tyler's on.
I'd like to
Press
know.
Tyler.
I'd like to know, and I have no idea. So you can talk to Tyler about that in the chat.
Talk to Tyler.
you know, because I don't know anything about making a site, so I don't really know what the, I don't know I don't know anything. I'm just sitting here patiently waiting. Well, patiently as I can.
You know what, John? How do you feel about Grimaldi's? This is a New York thing. Sorry, guys. How do you feel about Grimaldi's in Coney Island?
Quick sidetrack there.
Yeah.
No, I've only been to Coney Island once in my life. Although I
Are you,
guess it's because all of Jersey's beaches are so much nicer.
yeah, like Coney Island is. You go there because it's nostalgia.
Where?
Hey,
Nah, see,
hey.
so what
I'm
you
in the
gotta
city.
understand, Val, is Val from has he been is he familiar with this area?
No.
Oh
He
yeah,
hasn't been
so
in New
so
York
look,
yet.
New York pizza is New Jersey pizza, basically, and vice versa. Like so, I mean, not all of New Jersey, but the area of New Jersey we're in, we're literally like 20 minutes from the city. So all of the like great basically the New York style pizza is what we have here. And we have tons of really great pizzerias. I'm not gonna say Jersey has the same. I'm not gonna argue the whole like whose pizza is better type shit. You know what I mean? But back in the day, like when my grandparents came here, they came here on boats and they did like kind of this to New York and New
Okay.
Jersey. So all the Italians went to New York and the Newark area of New Jersey. So both areas of the whether it be the boroughs or be this area in New Jersey, we got all the pizza. So it's not really like there's a difference between New York pizza and New Jersey pizza. We just got the pizza here. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, Tyler. Rob hasn't picked up his guitar yet, so he hasn't been able to get into any style of music yet.
Yeah, I've literally played that new guitar 4 times since I've owned it. We were actually talking about that before you got on, and so I started kind of getting into some basic stuff just to get the fingers moving again, and kind of rehashing through some things that I used to know, and then I haven't really had any time to really dive into anything fun yet. I got to get all the, you know, I'm
The
not pointing.
basics.
I'm not pointing fingers or anything, but like once I have the flow going with the other site, and I know what the workload's going to look like, then I can kind of schedule my time.
See, Tyler, you ask a question and then you get shot for it.
You know,
Uh,
Tyler's over here doing free work, and everyone's bothering him. Tyler said
ain't over here talking
well,
about Connecticut pizza. Listen, nobody wants. People in Connecticut don't want to be in Connecticut.
Connecticut pizza.
You know.
What the fuck? Did you see what Tyler said? Oh man. Now
Oh,
I just consider you a regular white person. I didn't even know.
oh
How'd you know
man.
he was Portuguese?
He says it. He said it
Oh yeah.
on Saturdays a few times.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, Angel told me that story the other day.
Yes, Mitch. We're talking about Grimaldi's. Even though there's 6 of them now. They have one in Dumbo. They have one over in Hoboken now.
Yep.
Yeah. What? Hold on. Grimaldi's in Florida. That don't even sound right.
You know what pizza
You know.
I mean, New York people are going to lose their shit, I think, because to an extent this is fairly touristy. But I used to love artichoke when I'd be in New York.
Here's the problem.
I
Like,
love their crab pie. Oh my god! I mean, it's way too expensive, and you wait in line for
wait,
85 minutes to get one piece. But uh, I
like
actually miss artichoke.
I went in there and they were like, "Oh, we don't do single slices. We only do pies."
No, it depends on which one you go to. The one that I was going to in Brooklyn, I can't remember where, what street, but the one I was going to in Brooklyn, you could get a slice,
Like,
but you had to
oh
wait a long fucking time to get your slice.
wow,
Yeah.
oh
And
man,
back
Angel.
then, when I say back then, it's not forever ago, but this was probably, I don't know, nine, 10 years ago. Back then, that shit was, fucking 40,
Oh,
40
so
bucks.
where in Connecticut, Angel? You tell us where in Connecticut.
Oh, he said Pizza Hut. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, I'm thinking you're right on that. But see, what I'm going to try to do is get ahead of that once I actually see what the flow is. And literally, I was talking to Wanda today. I got to hire, I'm going to hire an additional person or so.
He said they had one in Arizona that went out of business.
Mm.
Tyler, there is nothing good in New Haven at all. There is nothing good in New Haven, and that includes Yale. Like
That includes, you know,
New Haven is fucked up, and you know it too, Tyler. New Haven is all fucked up.
oh man.
You know, like
Oh, he said only the pizza.
we got a road trip. You know what? That would be a better idea. We should do a road trip and document the whole road trip
Oh God,
on a on a pizza journey.
could you imagine?
Yeah, for real.
Why though? Like, look, I haven't been around the entire fucking country, but we know we got the best pizza over here. Why don't we just go
Mm-hmm.
to New York and hit the spots? Whatever the classics are. What we don't need to go. We don't need to go outside of the tri-state to get the best pizza.
Is that yeah?
I'm leery about. I've had pizza in Connecticut, not like I've had the best pizza in Connecticut, but I'm leery about your Connecticut claims. You know,
Like the only thing good in Connecticut is Donut Delight. They make some good motherfucker. They make some good donuts, Donut Delight. That's one thing I could admit to about, but that's more in the Stanford area of Connecticut. Pizza Rat. Hey, listen, like if a rat can get some pizza, it will carry it like 14 blocks.
last time I was in the city with Rosemary, we were waiting for a train down in the subway, and a rat walked by us with a
Mm.
whole damn bag of Cheetos.
Yeah, when with no shame.
Whole bag. And she was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's just rats here.
Yeah.
Just another day." Uh,
Yeah, but just back to the music, like we talk a lot of, like we speak a lot about rap music, and back in the day when we actually had good rap,
yep.
we talk about now, and then the other day before the podcast we talk about West Side Gun and how he sounds just like your boy Action Bronson.
Yeah, man. I don't know, that disappointing. I didn't listen to much West Side Gun, but when you were playing some, you said that was his newer shit.
Yeah, newer
Yeah,
stuff.
like the whole everything about it was action. Action Bronson's my dude, man. You can't. And that's what I was talking about earlier about because, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's hip hop, rock, metal, jazz. Being able to cherry pick certain influences, having certain influences is fine, but you have to mold that into your own style. When you just emulate somebody else, I'm not into that. I don't like that.
It's very interesting because you have a certain rapper like Cameron
Mm,
who had one style at first, then left and came back with a whole different rap style.
yeah, Cameron is interesting because he part of what he pioneered. I don't know if it's good, but it kind of put him on the map. So it's kind of like a cheat code. Is like he's one of the few rappers. It's not like he's the first one, of course, but he's one of the few rappers that routinely made up fucking words and stupid shit to go in his
Yeah.
verses, and it'd be like, what the fuck? What did he say? That's not even a brand, or that's not even a thing. And like, but you would know Cameron for pulling that shit from time to time. So you'd get a good laugh out of his stuff sometimes, even if he wasn't trying to make you laugh. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been on the fence about whether or not I'm a fan of Cam, but there's a lot of shit that like when it comes on, you're gonna sing to it. You know what I mean?
You know what? And it's
Like Hey
crazy.
Ma's never gonna come on, and you're gonna be like, no, you're gonna fucking rock with it the whole time. Like
Hmm.
it is
You
what it
know,
is.
it's kind of what's crazy is like a lot of stuff that we listened to in high school. You would go back to it and you go, yo, how the fuck was I listening to this? And how did I think this was hot?
Well, like I said, we have a very interesting approach, the two of us, to that. Because like so, there is some of that stuff, but I got to tell you, hip hop in particular has gotten so bad that I actually go back to stuff from the early 2000s to early 2010s, like up let's
Hmm.
say up to like the Wayne and Two Chains type era, where
Yeah.
stuff that like to me was unbearable. I'd be driving around when I was doing moving jobs. They'd have Hot 97 on all day, and I'd be listening to fucking a 94th fucking Wayne feature on a fucking song that sucked. And I'd be like, how is anybody like digging this shit? To now everything's so bad that I'd be happy to listen to basically Wayne do anything over a Mike Will beat. So it's kind of like, yeah, some of that shit was trash, but now when you compare it to what's out now, it's like some of that shit wasn't so bad. But
Because
then,
because
but then if
like
you go back further to the period we're talking about that we always talk about, which is
yeah.
the late '80s, early '90s, especially the
Hmm.
'90s, early
Yeah.
'90s to mid '90s. It's like then you go, okay, well, yeah, the shit from shortly after that was pretty garbage because that there was like one to me, there was one period of true hip hop, and it was the '90s. That's it. It's
Hmm.
obviously not the very beginning of it, and it's certainly not the story of it, but that's when it was kind of like there was a hunger. You know what I mean? Everybody was actually an MC. These people were actually talking about something. There was actual wordplay. There's still songs to this day from albums that I had back then that I'll still catch a new double entendre or a new wordplay or a new twist that, oh shit, I didn't get what he was going for there. You don't get that anymore. Now you can't even make out the fucking words, and they're not saying shit. It's just it's trash. So yeah, I kind of look at it a little bit differently because yeah, some of that shit you're like, how did I listen to this back then? But then if you compare it to anything that's trying to be passed in the same genre now, you're like, all of that was pretty good.
what's kind of crazy is you think about like how the hell did Nelly go diamond? Like if you
Like
go
I'll
back
never
to his,
disagree with that. I never dug Nelly. Ja Rule too.
like
I actually argue with people about Ja Rule quite often. I'm like, he was goofy to me, bro. Like I didn't really, not as goofy as Nelly, but I don't know. The Angel agrees.
like
It was the '90s. The '90s was hip
yeah,
hop.
yes,
You know,
definitely, it definitely was. But also too, like most of that stuff, you can play it now, and it has replay value. A lot of the stuff from maybe 2000 to 2008, you can't play
let me
none of
tell
that
you
shit
too.
now.
Let me
Besides,
tell you too. Even in terms of producing, because I mean, most of the people that are currently on already know that I did hip hop production for quite a time too, and that's something that because I'm a musician, I was actually usually equally as interested in the instrumental as I was in the the lyrics. Um, there, I'd say the '90s was the era, even in terms of production. More technical things and a little bit different style. I'd say like a kind of a harder style, if you will,
yeah,
wound up being adopted in the late 2000s and 2010s. So some cool shit there, some good producers. But back in the days of of Preem and Ninth Wonder, and when you had people that literally that was the craft, and they could literally what they could live sample the shit out of anything,
yeah.
and they had a vision for what the instrumental was supposed to sound like, and they could basically take anything and mold it into something that made you go, mm. You don't have any of
So
that anymore. And most of the greatest producers came out of that era as well. You know, even people that turned to remember. Oh, that was me and Mario that were talking about it the
yeah,
other day a ton. But we always talk about Kanye.
yeah.
Back when Kanye was a producer, which is where I wish he would have stayed. To be honest with you, some of the early Kanye stuff, some of the fucking hardest instrumentals you're ever gonna hear. You know what I mean?
You know, like in my opinion, I always say that Puffy kind of killed rap with all his samples.
You know what's weird? I said that shit to that's what I said to Mario on Saturday when we were sitting there. I said literally right about at the and he was arguing no, I think Frex was arguing with me that like, oh no, Puffy was since back with Biggie. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about when he first came out. The Puffy era, I call it. All that bad boy shit. That's when you really saw the over commercialization of hip hop, and it just all became about brand dropping
Yep,
and money and hose,
yep.
and even the production value just started to go downhill. It was I would actually
I
credit
agree
him.
with you, Angel.
I would credit him with the fucking. I'd credit him with the destruction overall, the slow death of hip hop.
Hmm.
I
Well,
agree with you
because
completely.
the thing too was it was just the fact of it was the sampling, and then everybody had the sample music. It was like, oh well, this was a hit back then. We can make it a hit again.
Listen, yeah, because that was another big thing. That's another problem with where sampling went. Now we're getting very detailed, but sampling for some of the greatest instrumentals on the fucking planet from back in the day were from records and artists and shit from overseas, stuff you never heard of that they made magic with. For example, we've talked about this at length. One of my favorite instrumentals of all time was "Running" from the instrumental for "Running" by Farside, which later on Maya
Yeah,
used for "Fallen." Uh,
yeah,
One of the greatest instrumentals ever. That instrumental came from literally a couple bar section of an old Brazilian jazz guitar record that nobody had ever heard of.
hmm,
Later on, sampling became exactly that. Let's take hit songs that people already know and interject it into an okay beat so people recognize the instrumental right away for familiarity while we kind of start getting away from having any topic of for the music, because that's about the time like we were talking about
yeah.
when they started really talking
It was
about
just having
nothing
a
but
hot hook.
it was about the cars, the clothes, the hose, and
Yeah,
just talking shit. So it was like, let's distract them with a familiar hook in the instrumental, which was overused samples from overly popular songs. That wasn't sampling like the way Preem used to do it, or like the way any of the old producers used to do it.
so
It's a different style.
I have an interesting question for you. Because so when Timberland came out, Timberland had a unique sound that you knew it was Timberland. It was a Timberland beat.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel like uh like Scott Storch was the same way, or you're like, oh hold up, like he made this beat, like Dr. Dre's beats. You can kind of tell what's a Dre beat.
I would actually say, and now I'm going to preface this with Timberland's not at all one of my favorite producers. Not because he's not good. I just didn't like his styles. It's kind of like when we talk about cigars, we all have different palates. A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
Timberland stuff, especially because he uses a lot of fucking mouth noises and shit,
yeah.
always got under my skin. I don't like his production style. Although there are some instrumentals I can point to and say, okay, yes, awesome. But Timberland is one of the absolute best examples of having what I call a signature. Like with it before audio tags, you knew it was a Timberland beat. Way before people had audio tags, you knew it was a Timberland beat. There are a lot of other producers that I can pick out from just the instrumental, but not too many people have a signature the way Timberland has a signature because he literally makes a lot of the sounds.
Yeah.
He doesn't just slap things together in his own style. He literally makes a lot of his own sounds for the instrumentals. So he's probably one of, if not the best example of an automatically recognizable producer. But then
Well,
even in terms of sampling styles, sometimes you can tell one from another if you're in tune enough with it. Like Static Selecta is one of my favorite producers ever, and he relies heavy on vinyl sampling still to this day. That's what he's always done. He does a ton of shit with Bronson and
okay.
with everybody, but he's actually done full records with Bronson. But like he has a sampling style where you can tell that it's him. But past Timberland, he's probably one of the most instantly recognizable producers ever.
So like, but well, Pharrell's kind of that almost that same way. You can definitely tell a Pharrell beat.
Back in the NERD days, yeah, he's definitely got his own thing too. Ninth Wonder, though, yeah, I'd put him up there too, for sure. Now Scott Storch, it's hard to see. It's hard to really throw him in the mix, and for a good reason. This is going to be a big compliment. I love Scott Storch. He's one of my favorite. Like if I had a list of 20, he's one of my favorite, right? But some of Scott Storch's instrumentals are so fucking famous that it's hard to really know if it's his style or if it's the fact that everybody knows his instrumentals. He's made some of the heaviest hitters on the fucking planet. With a fucking blunt in his mouth, just fucking awkwardly beating it out on the keys. Like he's just, he's nasty. He's fucking nasty. I don't know if his signature is as strong as other producers, but So are you going to know a lot of obscure Scott Storch instrumentals? Probably not. But the amount of stuff that he has out there, where, there's whole compilations of people playing his shit on the piano still. You know what I mean? It's like
what's pretty funny is
he has so many bangers, so many that he's in the conversation. That's it.
So it's pretty funny because when you think of certain people who were hot in the early 2000s, like Rockwaller. Rockwaller was hot for a little bit. You had to have a Rockwaller beat. You had to have a Dark Child beat.
Yeah.
Like, those two guys probably had maybe 3 years. And then honestly, when you go back to listen to any of their stuff, you're like, yo, this is shit.
You know who I felt that way about? Oh, I might piss off quite a few people saying this. Swiss Beats. Now, Swiss. Look, I grew up.
You're being disrespectful right now.
So listen, I grew up, obviously in the age of Rough Riders, right?
Yeah.
Especially the first record, right? That was my childhood too. That's the soundtrack to my goddamn childhood, right? Him and DMX, which John had mentioned, of course. Yeah. But Swiss Beats had a time for his style, and I always thought it was kind of cheesy. And then, when he tried kind of really bringing back the signature with which record was it that he did with Jay-Z? When he did On to the Next One, and you know what I'm talking about. It just kind of, he sounded, Swiss isn't timeless to me. Some of his stuff sounds like it had a period and it had a time. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of producers like that. Even if you fast forward a bit to the 2010s, I mentioned earlier Mike Will, who actually was one of my early influences when I started doing production. But is he one of the greats? Hell no. His instrumentals fit a certain time. Like when you hear BMF come on, like I described BMF when it first came out as the heavy metal of rap, because that beat alone just made you want to fuck somebody up.
Yeah.
It was like that was to me that was one of the hardest fucking beats I had ever heard in my life. That's before I knew who he was. I was like, who in the hell produced this? And it was Mike Will. Fast forward to now, name a song Mike Will's produced.
Very, very true. Well, and it's
And it's
it's
not that
very
he
interesting.
hasn't, but it's like I think his style fit a certain time. He's not the type of producer that's gonna wind up in the all these years later talking about a Q-Tip or a fucking Ninth Wonder or a Preem. It had a time and a place, and where's he now? You know?
You know what's very interesting, because I'm not a big fan of this person, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna love this person, the RZA.
Oh, I love it, of course.
So like, to me, RZA's beats are very interesting, and I love Wu-Tang. His beats are very, very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. He's in the conversation for sure. So somebody in the comments definitely disagrees with my opinions.
Yeah, it's all right. E- ho- Ethan, you play guitar, Ethan? But
I would
like
I would imagine so. It looks like there's a guitar in there.
Bobby Digital. Yo, but first of all, that was one of the most trash ass tracks ever. I don't care what nobody says. B-O-B-B. Like, yo, come on, man. What you doing here? But like, so
I have a
like,
few. Listen. I got a handful of hot takes on certain groups and shit that if what do you call it? If Ethan don't like me now, you wouldn't want to hear some of my hot takes on some of the biggest groups on the planet. And again, it's from a technical
yeah,
perspective, really. But it's also music, like I say, is like cigars. There's a lot
yeah,
of personal feel and palate and opinion involved to it. So it's not like any of this shit's gospel, but it's like there are certain groups, bands, artists in every genre that are some of the biggest in the world that I don't want to hear. You know what I
I
mean?
got another name for you. Just Blaze.
I can't. What am I going to say about Just Blaze?
You know,
There, you, you're not going to sit around and talk shit about Just Blaze.
not.
You know.
Like,
Also, a guy who
it's,
like is associated with some of the songs that
yeah.
they're the
You're good, Ethan.
soundtracks. The
You're
shit
good.
that anytime it comes on, you're going to move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fantastic producer.
It's funny because it may seem like it's a small group of guys who come out with all the hits, and then you're like, damn, you start naming names. You're like, damn, everybody has and it's almost like everybody has a run. Where they're able to create the sound.
Yep. No Ideas done some fantastic stuff.
Well, think about back then when you had to have a little John beat.
I know. But see, that's another one of those things where I'd say it fit a certain time and sound. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to hear a little John beat on anything currently. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And listen, all of these people to me, they get a certain level of respect and accolades, even if I don't like them, because
Yeah.
they created the soundtracks to whole portions of time in a genre where we're talking about their names now. So it's like I can't notice I haven't said any of these producers are trash.
Yeah.
Not that any of them suck. I just don't like some of them. You know what I mean? Which again, it just comes down to opinion. The first one that we talked about was Timberland.
Yeah.
And I
So
told you,
like,
and he, like I said, his mouth noises and his weird, quirky shit and most of his instrumentals drove me crazy. But is he a good producer? He's one of the most inventive and innovative producers on the planet. So there's a difference between not liking something and not giving them the accolades they deserve. And everybody that
so
we just mentioned, even if they're not a timeless producer, they had a time and place and were the sound at the time.
so this last one I'm gonna bring up before I move to something else. Eminem and his beats.
Mm. There's a twofold reason why I'm not a huge fan of M's beats. One of it's because on the technical level, I thought his beats were okay, but the other part is like, it's when somebody tries to put on too many hats. Like you're considered one of the greatest MCs alive by other rappers, by your peers, right? You're never
Yeah.
going to be able to get anywhere close to that with producing. It's like, why don't you just pair with the best in that field and do what you do. So I was never able to really appreciate most of his instrumentals. You know, they're okay, but like they seemed like okay, and they pale in comparison to whatever he spit over it. So it's like, eh, it's kind of, yeah. But we've talked about that a million times at the shop
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
There were certain rappers who tried to produce where they might have pulled. Look at J. Cole every now and then pull something out of his ass, and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, okay.
You know what? I
But
got
then every now and then you
sorry.
got a Kanye
Sorry, guys.
who early on, okay, I'm never going to deny some of the early stuff that he put out as a rapper, but later on started just going full Andy Warhol of production and rap, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, well, now what exactly do you do? And what I'm missing the vision now. And meanwhile, when he was just a producer, back in like the Common days, some of Kanye's earliest instrumentals I put him up there in the top 10 of some of the stuff that influenced me in terms of when I was doing production work. You know,
Like it's two more guys. I'm sorry, guy. I know I keep saying that I'm gonna move on from, but uh, Green Lantern and Alchemist.
Alchemist is he's a legend. Green Lantern, I'm very neutral on. I don't really have a spiel for that. Alchemist though is a legend. For sure.
Havoc from my deep.
You already know how I feel about Havoc. You're, if Angel's still watching, he just laughed his ass off when you asked that.
Yeah.
Because Mob Deep to me is well, personally one of my absolute all-time favorites, and that includes the instrumentals. The feel, it was 90s. It was 90s hip hop. It was that raw, without being oversimplified. Also, somebody who's kind of slept on in terms of what he did with samples. Uh, Havoc was unbelievable, unbelievable. One of my favorites. Yep.
It's very interesting because like I never got into artists as far as like I listen to their hits, but as far as a group like Rage Against the Machine
Mm-hmm.
and how they went and kind of mixed, that turntable style in with the rock, and then you have
Well, the interesting thing with Rage Against the Machine, you probably know this, but they actually never had a turntable. Joe Morello is just a fucking animal. I mean, sorry, wow. Joe Morello's a drummer from the fucking. He did Take Five with Dave Brubeck. Tom Morello,
oh
the guitar player, he made all of them record sounds literally with the guitar.
wow.
In fact,
you know
he said this in interviews a bunch of times. But Tom Morello learned how to make weird and interesting sounds with the guitar before he ever learned how to play the guitar. So
that's crazy.
So like if you ever watch him do like in Bulls on Parade when
Yeah,
he
yeah,
sounds like there's a fucking DJ break in the song where you hear that scratching part,
yeah.
he literally does that on the guitar. That he's literally doing that with his fingers and the strings. There's no DJ in Rage Against the Machine. Tom Morello is a fucking he's an animal.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So interesting fact for you. Do you know that like Stone Cold Steve Austin's walkout music is actually a take on Balls Out Parade?
Hmm. I can kind of hear it. I can kind of
It's
hear it.
kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. I can kind of hear it.
You know,
Oh, the amount of times we covered
Steve, I was
Bulls
just
on
about
Parade in one particular band.
you know what? I was right about to talk about Take Five and just how that song is like one of the most classic and you know um like when you first hear jazz like when you first hear Come On and Take Five and you hear first hear Take Five, you're like, damn, this band is going in.
Yeah, Tom Morello actually taught right here in town, about a mile from my house, uh,
That's crazy.
blind and all, up until not long ago. He was still around here. Yeah, actually, you know what's interesting, Steve? We never brought this up because I don't think I've even been talking to Innocent about it, but I've been dipping my toe lately more into the jazz stuff lately myself. I've been listening to a ton of Bill Evans Trio. Ton.
Oh, so Ethan, so since you play, just write down real quick who are your because you know Rob brought up a couple of his inspirations when it comes to music with guitar. Who are some of your inspirations? But you know, like back in one thing that we did too was like I would hear something from the 1930s, 1940s in the form of jazz, and I'll go, yo, Rob, check this out.
Yeah.
And also too, just in the sense of how cartoons use actual jazz songs back in the day.
Yep. Well, think about it. You couldn't slap together a something on a keyboard and use it for an intro, like you know, back in the early cartoons and shit like that. You had to play that stuff live. So if you
Yeah,
think about what styles of music they have to pick from in the 30s,
true.
you had big band, uh, big band, swing, jazz. What did you really
And,
have to
and
pick
it's
from?
like it's like that one where it's like I like the singer. Like you heard like as a kid you hear it, you're like, oh, I like that one, like I like the singer in the moon, and then you're like, oh shit, that was Cabe Calloway.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh well, the Tom and Jerry song, that one right there was Louis Jordan, which
Hmm.
Louis Jordan is one of my favorite jazz players. I love Louis Jordan.
Yep.
You know, like, but one thing you did teach me also is most of these good drummers are they start off with jazz, so they most of them have a jazz background.
Yeah. Well, especially kind of like a lot of the ones for particular bands we were talking about. They got their roots in jazz. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like it's something that like a lot of people touch on at one time or another. Like I'm gonna openly say this. I mean, my father already knows this, but even though I grew up with all kinds of genres, including jazz, I never really had a love for it until later in life. And when I say later in life, I mean like in the last 5 years, I'm starting to really dig into some of the greats. But it's kind of like it's almost like a rite of passage that anybody who really is playing music touches on at some point. You learn a lot of very important fundamentals that you can apply to every genre through jazz. So, like even myself, uh, back in the high school days, I was in jazz band for a couple of years. I didn't really like basically most of anything we were playing, but I did it, and it's kind of like
Hmm.
or like even if you take lessons or something like that, which my father taught me drums and most of the other instruments I learned on my own, so I didn't go the traditional route. But I know from having worked in a music school and uh, store for so long, jazz is going to be part of the curriculum at some point, and it's because of all the fundamental principles you're going to learn from jazz. So it's an important art form if you're diving into music and if you're learning. And I'm starting to learn the importance of it more now than before, because I used to really always just view jazz as a bunch of tools taking turns soloing over a shuffle.
Hmm.
Fantastic solos, mind you, but it was kind of just like, all right, well, where's the complete thought here? But then when you start really looking at pieces individually, you start to go, oh wow, you start to really understand more of what's happening instead of just looking. You can't. It's like anything else. You can't put an entire genre in a box. There are a lot of different styles of players and a lot of different artists, and they're not all equal by any means.
One thing, and one thing I want to touch on was because you have your music.
Ah,
You had your pocket with your dad,
yeah.
but one thing too is, and you touched on it for a second, was your watches.
Mm.
What got you into watches and just learning,
You want to know
just
something? Everybody, especially with watches, always has like this cool story of like, oh, my grandfather had this watch, or, I saw these
you
watches when we'd
have a good
walk
night,
by
Yud.
when we'd walk by the store all the time. There's always some story of how you got into watches. And I figured you were going to ask me this question. I have no answer. I actually have no idea what got me into watches. My dad never wore a watch. Nobody in my family was into watches. I think it must just really come down to, I mean, so music we've talked about a million times.
Yeah.
I've been a car nut my whole life to the point where, as early as middle school, I was rebuilding motors with my uncle. We always talk about that shit. I've been a car nut my whole
Yeah.
life. I have a real interest in mechanical things. So I think really when I
Hmm.
really and then when you look at something even like we always talk about the craft of cigars
Hmm.
that people don't
Exactly. Uh-huh.
appreciate. When you take the mechanical aspect and mix it with the art and craft of handmade watches and watchmaking, which is such an incredible art form and craft, I think it was the natural progression for me to wind up
Mm-hmm.
appreciating watches. And that's why I always make the argument about, proper mechanical watches versus watches that are actually more accurate and do more things, like an Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Always a mechanical watch for me, but there is no like direct. Here's how I got into watches. I got into it all on my own, and like
Sure.
kind of like the incorrect way too. I'd say, like, how like we make fun of people that start with flavored cigars,
Yeah. Yeah.
but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people do. They start with flavored cigars and they work their way into the real cigars, I call them. I back
I'm
in the,
guilty of that.
yeah,
My
I,
first cigar was a favorite,
yeah.
and then I got into
Well, I
the
back
real
in the
stuff.
day kind of did the same thing with watches, like where we make fun of people with the flavored stuff, where I was wearing, fossils and shit, like with the color change dial and stuff that like was not part of the handmade, proper art form or craft. But then that kind of sparked the interest further to look deeper into it, kind of like people do with cigars. And then it was like, oh, what is this battery driven quartz bullshit that I'm wearing that was stamped out in a factory? Look at this amazing shit that people are doing with these movements over here. Wow, look at what they did with this case over here. Then you're like, there's 5,000 fucking materials that are used, and you start diving into complications, and you're like, it's one of those things where you can just really, the rabbit hole goes forever deep, but it's a fucking
So
money pit. People talk about, oh, cigars get
yeah,
expensive. Not like watches. I don't have
yeah,
almost any of the actual watches that are on my list. They're car prices, all of them. You know what I mean?
yeah. So my question, so for me, like the watch I love is the one that the one that opens up, the one you hold in your pocket and you just take it out,
Oh, pocket
click
watch.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a pocket watch, but like I was trying to be proper and call it the actual like name of it. But I actually like pocket watches more than an actual watch.
Well, you know
Just
what's
because
cool? You know what blends the two of those together? Somebody brought it up on a live stream recently. There's a brand called Vortic, Vortic, I think it is, who takes century-old vintage pocket watches
yeah,
and recases them into wristwatches. So you have those absolutely ornate, because pocket watches, some of those had the most ornate movements and dials I've ever seen in my
yeah.
life. And they turn them into wristwatches, which is really cool.
Like because
Because if you're not wearing a breasted suit, where are you putting a pocket watch? You know
hey,
what I mean? Like
yeah,
you need to be able to pull that shit out of your vest and be like, "It's 2:30." If you don't have a where you, I don't know. That's a hard one for me. I still appreciate the mechanical aspect of it just as much, but it's not as practical these days in terms of what people wear as a wristwatch.
the thing. So for me, I look at that as you know as tradition because most of the times we see somebody with a pocket watch, like oh, like my grandfather had this.
Yeah.
And my grandfather gave it to my
But
dad,
that's
and
understandable because
like a
pocket
rite of
watches
passage.
really fell out of style by the time the wristwatches started taking off. So
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
roughly 100 years ago.
And that's why I always think of pocket watches. That's why I always think pocket watches are cool because also too in the craftsmanship of the shell of it or the front of it, all that stuff is usually handmade.
Yeah.
And it's some kind of meaning behind it.
Yep. Yeah. There was more room to be ornate with a pocket watch because you had more real estate, I call it,
Yeah,
because instead of just having a case back like on most watches, you had the case back, you had the case front, and then you had the inside of the case. So you had a lot more room to do a lot more different types of hand carvings and finishing styles and engravings in general. Like there was full messages in a lot of
yeah,
people's pocket watches,
yeah.
especially if they were a gift or if they were, something to mark a momentous occasion. So yeah, I like them a lot. It's just that there's a lot less to choose from because now
Hmm.
most companies don't make them. That and the
Yeah,
fact that, like I said, they're just a lot less practical now.
yeah.
Between cell phones and everybody's car has a key fob, nobody has keys anymore, etc.
Hmm.
Wallets, money, like your pockets are already full. So again,
Yeah.
unless you're a classy motherfucker and you got vest pockets, ain't really nowhere to put a pocket watch. You know. Besides, it's like then you got to pull it out of your pocket every time. I don't know. See, I'm that weird mix of like I love all of the unnecessary detail, but at the same time I want the practicality of doing this. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna dig around in my pockets and be like, oh no, fuck, that's my car key again. I need to know what time it is. At that point,
Yeah,
might as well just pull your cell phone out and look at it.
exactly. So damn, damn, Ange, a 95.
I was the first person in my not like the world, but in my fucking school in high school that had the color changer. Fossil
Mm.
came out with a watch when I was in high school. It was the first watch ever where the dial changed colors.
Oh wow.
You could either set it to one color that you wanted to keep it at, or the dial would constantly go back and forth between. I had the one that was I believe it was green and blue, but like the
Mm.
dial would change color. And everybody would like half the year people were just staring at my watch. It was so fucking. It's a gimmick, but
Yeah.
it was cool. But yeah,
I was like, one thing is, and we're about to wrap up soon because we're about almost 2 hours in. And time, in time, like time flew. And
Oh,
also too.
by the way, I'm smoking the Matapa Claro.
You know what? I was gonna talk about that. I was gonna say how many have you went through already?
Do you really want to know?
Because like I'm telling you right now, that took that kind of, to at least in my opinion right now, that one really just took fucking what's that fucking the Almanac Claro, and really just kicked that one off the fucking
Well, that's the
barricade.
interesting thing. Somebody asked me, I don't remember if it was on the live stream with Sanj or if it was just in the shop, but somebody asked me the other day if, because they see me smoking this so much, do I actually like this more than the Olmec Claro now? You want to know something? No.
Oh, really?
So basically, why I keep smoking it, two reasons. A, it's very, very good. Spoiler alert for anybody who's looking for it. Shouldismokethis.com. Oh, no, edit that out. YouTube.
Yeah.
But But not only is it fucking great, but it's new, and I'm going to be reviewing the line soon. So I've been trying to smoke a lot of both versions of the Matapa in both
Yeah.
wrappers. This way, I have experience with it. Because like I always try to smoke a lot of samples before I review something. This way, I'm not
Mhm.
all dogging it with one sample. And because sometimes you get a shitty stick, and that's not how you want to represent a line. But no, believe it or not, I still like the Olmec Claro just a hair over this.
So my question. So all right. So now, because it's like 50 million. It's 50 million rappers. So a Claro rapper, Where's that from? Do you know by any chance?
It's not from a particular place. It's the Claro is the shade of the wrapper.
Okay.
So Claro more or less denotes a shade. So that's what gets confusing sometimes with cigar wrappers. Sometimes they mean something that have something to do more or less with the curing process.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's literally just it denotes a shade. For example, Connecticut shade leaf, a proper
Yep.
Connecticut shade leaf is shade grown.
Yeah.
It's grown under like the cheesecloth or whatever
Yeah.
substitute that they use for that in order to give it that kind of pale color. A Maduro wrapper is cured longer. This way it brings out the natural sugars in the wrapper. But then you have stuff like Rosado, Claro, um, not necessarily Habano. Sometimes it has multiple meanings, but where it's literally the shade of the wrapper. And sometimes that has a specific curing time and stuff as well, but it's not necessarily a specific process for a specific purpose. It's just the wrapper shade, more or less.
So now, like, it's I've smoked pretty much all of them except for maybe the Maduro in that one, and also and then the $40 cigars he came out with.
What do you want to know?
How is the $40 cigar? Is it
Uh,
worth the $40?
well, unfortunately, I'm gonna give you the live stream with Sanj answer on that, and that's completely up to your wallet. That's the subjective thing. So would I pay $40 for it again? Well, I didn't pay $40 in the first place, but no, no, very good. Construction was excellent. Definitely not a repeat of the tabernacles that already exist. So that's all
Yeah.
cool. But did I get and this is ruining the review for those of you who are watching this podcast, because I am going to review that too. But did I get an experience so unique or enjoyable from the samples that I smoked so far that I'm like, okay, it's $40, but you need a box of these? Not really.
Mm.
Not really. The box is pretty cool though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because it was touched by the souls of the Ethiopians.
Some shit like that. I
Yeah.
love Nick, man.
Yeah.
He's got interesting stories behind some of his cigars though.
I would say this. He makes good shit, man.
Well, no shit, he's Nick Melillo.
He makes amazing shit.
You know, he's even though people mistake his level of experience based on how young he is. You
Yeah.
know, that's why I keep reminding people. He's like the equivalent of some of the producers we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
He's a producer in the cigar world, right? And some of the heaviest hitters and classics that people still talk about today, like we were talking about music earlier, but
He made.
in the cigar world, were blended by Nick Melillo. And people need to
Yeah.
remember that. So he's not just like a young, because he's not like some young kid out of Connecticut that just had some money and has a cigar line. No, this is somebody who immersed himself in the life, literally moved to Nicaragua, lived on a farm, and went to school for agriculture and learned everything to understand fully the process from the actual seed and the ground that it's in all the way to the finished product. Created some of the greatest blends ever before he even had his own brand. And that's why he's still putting out solid stuff,
Bangers.
now that he's on his own.
Bangers.
The
only, like the new stuff, especially the Charter Oak. The new Charter Oak should have been called something. It should have been called something else. But as far as a cigar, it's fire. Like I smoked both of them.
That's my take on it. Fire. And mostly because to me it was a marketing mistake. I'm sure Nick would disagree, but I understand to an extent the story behind it. But Charter Oak, here's the mistake there. The Charter Oak is already known as one of the greatest budget cigars ever. It's been kind of like a widely accepted opinion. The original Charter Oaks. They're like $6, $7 roughly a stick, MSRP. It's a hard swallow, no matter what the story is, no matter what the tobacco is, to put the same name, so essentially kind of extend the Charter Oak line for double the price. So it's like, okay, it is a good cigar. Another spoiler alert, because I'm going to review those too, but it is a good cigar. But it's hard for you to not keep thinking, it says Charter Oak on the band, it's by the same brand, and I paid double as much as for the regular Charter Oak that's already a good cigar. It's not the same cigar, but I would have definitely called it something else. And see, if he would have called it something else and released it for the price that he's selling it at, I think it would have been an even bigger hit. Although we'll see down the line how it does. But I think it would have been an even bigger hit, because in the 2023 market, a $13 premium cigar from somebody like Nick Melillo, that's cheap.
Yeah.
The thing is, a $13 Charter Oak, even though, again, it's not the same as the old Charter Oaks, it's hard for people to disconnect those two things. So we're going to see what the perception is on that in terms of sales as we go forward, between the shop and the site. But I don't know. It's not the decision I would have made exactly, but nice cigar.
All right. So, guys, we're going to end here. Tomorrow at 5:00. Make sure you guys are there. Make sure you guys tune in. Tomorrow's gonna be a little bit of a different show tomorrow on the we got a couple things lined up for tomorrow's show at 5. So tune in.
I was sitting here literally kind of thinking, like, what the fuck's he talking about? Because like we're doing the live stream tomorrow. You're talking about the live stream.
Yes.
Ah. Okay. Yeah. We got some stuff. Oh, I need to make this note though to whoever's watching your podcast, because I haven't been able to say this publicly because this happened last night. For
Yep.
those of you who have been watching our live stream that we do 3 times a week, me, Innocent, and Sanj on YouTube, you can't. They hit me with more strikes last night. I'm not allowed to live stream. I'm literally blocked from live streaming. So you have to watch on Rumble,
Yep.
Facebook, or Instagram. So if you hop on YouTube like you normally do at 5 o'clock tomorrow, thinking you're going to see us, you're not, because my account's blocked again.
Yep.
So make sure that you it's Should I Smoke This on Rumble? Should I Smoke This on Instagram? Or Should I Smoke This on Facebook? That's where we'll be.
Guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Rob for coming on. This right here has been a long time coming. Rob is always like, yo, whenever you're ready, whenever you're ready. But the thing you have to understand is I'm always nervous to ask people to come on. So it's like,
Why the fuck
to
would you
get
be
Rob.
nervous to ask me to come on? I talk to you 80 times a day in person.
Exactly. Exactly.
And we didn't
And
really even touch on a lot of topics. So I mean,
exactly.
when you want to do a part 2, just let me know. I'll hop on.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, like because you guys see the abuse that goes on screen. Like you have to see what Sans put me through just off screen at the shop.
Listen, that shop being a reality show would make money. No
For
joke.
real.
The whole shop, like all fucking day, just chopped into episodes, should be a reality show. And the thing is, it's so fucking ridiculous. I think people would think that it's like people putting on an act for the camera, but it's not.
It's not.
That shop is lit all the fucking time. And I got to tell you, the catalyst for basically all of that is Sanj.
Yeah.
He's his own character, man. He's like the Willy fucking Wonka of cigar shops.
Exactly.
There ain't no other Sanj, man.
Yeah. Sanj is one of a kind, man. And next Tuesday, Sanj will be on next Tuesday at 9:00. I will have Sanj on, and I'm probably gonna do that one at the shop. So Puerto Rican Sanj might be in the building. Rob might leave and come back, and hop in during it. But next week is gonna be at the shop with Sanj.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be fun to have the Sanjas in the building while we're doing it. It'd be fucking really hilarious if Angel they snuck downstairs and grabbed the sound. Like we go down here and grab the sound box in the middle of your podcast, and you hear that.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, because then you have the you have the bleep that. That's all, folks. Fucking Angel.
He's fucked up for that. Oh no.
Oh man.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, guys, we kicking off. You guys already know Rob from Should I Smoke This? If you want, you already know. You can find Rob on Instagram at Should I Smoke This. You can also find Rob at shouldismokethis.com. You can also sign up for the Patreon at Should I Smoke This. All love.
Oh, I'm glad you just said that. I didn't pick the giveaway winners. If anybody's still watching who's on, I'm about to do that. I'll throw the video up as soon as I'll do it now.
Yeah.
If not for the fact that if this is the end of this and most people probably already signed off, I would just do the giveaway fucking draw
right now.
On your podcast.
Yeah. So listen, you guys know the vibe already. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Until next time, guys. Peace.
See you later.
Peace.